any discussion on the quarterbacks here during this week of free agency has to start with Aaron Rodgers. And the reality is these teams are doing what everyone else is doing. They are sitting there waiting. I don't think money is the issue right now. I think it really comes down to what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. And considering all of his options, those options could include retirement, and I wouldn't completely rule that out. Although he did tell the Jets in his exit meeting that he intends to play in 2025, and certainly he wouldn't be seeking his release from the Jets if it weren't for having some desire to play. But I wouldn't completely rule out retirement. I don't think you can rule out anything. And then there are the two teams that we've talked about. We'll talk about the wild card here in a second, but the teams that are really waiting on a decision from Aaron Rodgers, and those would be the Steelers and the Giants. And I think, one thing you have to look at here is what Aaron Rodgers has already been through and what he would go through with those two teams. So what he's already been through, what he went through the last 2 years with the Jets, was he joined a young team with a lot of young talent on it. And the idea was he was going to come in and elevate the entire program and take the program to the next level after not having won for a long time. To me, that's the Giants in this equation. The same way the Jets had Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and Jermaine Johnson and Quinnen Williams and Quincy Williams and Sauce Gardner. The Giants have a lot of promising young players. Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas is established, but he's still younger. Tyrone Tracy. On the defensive line, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. Deontay Banks is a high pick who they still have high hopes for. You look across the roster, you can see some promising young talent where you say, okay, maybe Aaron Rodgers can come in and elevate these guys the same way the Jets were hoping that he could come in and elevate the core. With the Steelers, it's different. With the Steelers, they're asking him to come in and be the final piece of the puzzle. And there are more contemporaries of Rodgers in there. TJ Watt's turning 31, Minkah Fitzpatrick's turning 29, Cam Hayward, obviously he's an older player. At the very end of his career. And they acted with some urgency already this offseason and going in and bringing DK Metcalf into the fold. And DK Metcalf is a guy who's on his third contract, so he's not younger anymore either. The reality of it to me, when I look at this situation, is I think the Giants would be asking him to do, again, a lot of what the Jets were asking him to do. Does that appeal to him? Maybe. Does the idea of getting vengeance in the same city where he just went through everything he went through the last 2 years, does that resonate with him? Maybe it does. But on the other side, you'd be kind of setting up for the guy to walk into a situation that's ready-made. They've been winning there for a long time. They're not in the middle of some drought the way the Giants are. This is a good team that's looking to level up and become a great team. And for that reason, I still think, and this is just my opinion, but I still think Pittsburgh is the most likely scenario. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I still think they're the most likely scenario for Aaron Rodgers. And then you have the wild card, which is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings put something very competitive to the 1-year, $14 million offer that the Colts signed. Colts signed Daniel Jones to in front of Jones. They also made an effort to keep Sam Darnold. They couldn't compete with Seattle, giving him the opportunity to be a multi-year starter there with J.J. McCarthy still on the roster. But very clearly, they want to give themselves an insurance policy against McCarthy. And doesn't mean they don't think McCarthy can be their quarterback for the next decade and a half. They still believe that. But J.J. McCarthy lost a bunch of weight while going through the rehab with the 2 knee surgeries. The second one, more of a cleanup. J.J. McCarthy lost four months of development time. So if you're Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and all the guys there, you're looking at it and you're saying, is there something here that we can do to make sure that we can look at our locker room and look at the guys that won 14 games with a straight face and say, yes, we are doing everything we can to win right now. We're doing everything we can to maximize this window that we're in with this core of players and this coaching staff. And I think that's sort of where they're at right now and where they have been over the last week or so. Now, what would Aaron Rodgers do? Well, Aaron Rodgers would basically mean pausing on the start of the J.J. McCarthy era for a year. They don't have a ton of other options as far as insurance policies, again, against McCarthy now, with Jones off the market and Darnold off the market. So the question changes where it's like you're going from having somebody competing with McCarthy to having somebody replacing McCarthy for a year. The situation would be enticing to Rodgers, like it would be to any quarterback. The idea of having Kevin O'Connell as your coach and throwing to Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, having Aaron Jones behind you in the run game. All of that would appeal to Rodgers. My guess would be like the Vikings actually throwing their hat in the ring and actually making an offer to Aaron Rodgers would probably change the dynamic a bunch. They're still discussing that. So whether or not they actually throw their hat in the ring, we'll see. As of last night, I know they were still discussing it. Maybe they throw their hat in the ring now. It's obviously a fluid situation, and there's a lot going on.